We gathered to talk about Dr. King's life and his work. We have a tendency, probably a very natural and certainly an understandable one, to demand that our national heroes fit into neat packages. And this seems to be happening more and more to Dr. King. Each year as his life, his work, and his death make the inexorable transition from lived memory to recent history to the realm of myth and symbol. Likewise, we ask that the messages of our heroes be easy to swallow and comfortable. And I can think of few things more damaging to Dr. King's legacy than to distill his vision and his work to something simple or something comfortable. Last year I chose to speak for a few minutes on his challenge to us to embrace the logic and the cause of peace, to recognize how military and political violence abroad fit very neatly into a package that includes violence and oppression at home. Today I'd like to take just a moment to remind us of an aspect of Dr. King's domestic agenda that was every bit as contentious in his time as his views on racial equality. At the time of his death, Dr. King had turned his attention to what he called the second phase of the civil rights struggle. And with that step, embodied in his Poor People's Campaign of 1967 and 68, he argued both explicitly and symbolically that the obstacles confronting Black Americans were part of a broader pattern of exclusion, a pattern deeply indicative of America at its worst, and also inimical of America at its best. The community of those who suffered from what he called the limitations to our achievement were not Black people or other racial minorities only. It was a recognition that even as some of America's most visible lines of discrimination began to fall into disrepute, other lines of separation, of discrimination, of stratification, of hierarchy, and ultimately of oppression are as fundamental to our social order as race has been, and that they remain largely submerged. With questions of poverty, King demanded that we, and I'm using his words here, question the capitalist economy. Again, in August 1967, he reminded us, and I'm quoting here, "And one day we must ask the question, why are there 40 million poor people in America? And when you begin to ask that question, you're raising questions about the economic system, about a broader distribution of wealth. And when you ask that question, you begin to question the capitalistic economy. And I'm simply saying that more and more, we've got to begin to ask questions about the whole society." So I can't think of any better way of honoring Dr. King than for each of us to insist that we continue to ask those questions, the big, uncomfortable questions that make us uneasy at public gatherings, that make us hold our tongues, and to make us look for comfort and ease among people who think like we do, perhaps share our values, share our patterns in politics and consumption. There are plenty of reasons to honor Dr. King for the work that he did, and there are just as many reasons to recognize the work that he pointed out, and to ask what's the easy thing to do, and then to ask ourselves what's the right thing to do. Thank you.